All right, so today we're going to be introducing something called function notation, and basically it's just another way to write what you know as equations in a different sort of form. And when you get to Algebra 2 as a junior, or in 2 years, you will use function notation almost exclusively, and you'll kind of start to see, hopefully today, some of the benefits to that over how you've been writing equations to this point. So you should be following along with the front page of the packet. If you don't have that packet, I need you to get it. And then this objective can go at the top. So you're going to see as I go through the next just couple slides, you can sort of fill in the blanks of what you need to do, and I'll try to walk you through that as you're working. So if you need to pause, take a second to pause this video and get that objective written in. Okay, so functions have a specific form, and each function has a name, and the only name, to try to keep it simple today, that I'm going to give functions is just f. Okay, I'm going to use f for function, and that's going to go in front of your input. Okay, so you can start to see how that looks. So it's going to have a name that's going to go here, and that's just going to be the letter f. Okay, whatever I'm plugging into my function is going to go in parentheses. Okay, so it's kind of just the x value that you plug into your equation. And then that's going to equal the output. Alright, and that's just what comes out once you use your function f. Okay? So for example, this is a function. Okay, the name is f. You plug the x in, and then what you do to that number is you square it and subtract 1, and that's the output that you're going to get out. What you're going to see as you work through some of the examples on the next page is sometimes you'll have to plug in. If there's a number there, then that's what you do. You evaluate it, plug it in for x, and it's just like what we did, honestly, back in September when we were evaluating expressions. It just looks a little different now. Okay, you're plugging in a number, you're doing what the rule says to do, and you're telling me what you get. Okay? So you're going to see it show up as a machine. We call them function machines, and it's going to look something like this. And you see this picture, hopefully, on your packet in front of you. And what's happening is this machine is, it's squaring the number you plug in and then subtracting 1. So as I plug in the number 3, it's going to go through this machine, it's going to work it out, okay? And then I can say, all right, f of 3 equals, and I square 3 and subtract 1, and that's going to equal 8. So that's what my answer looks like. Now the nifty thing about functions is you can see both what you plugged in and what you got out at the same time. So when I look at this, I see, okay, I used the function f, I plugged in 3, and I got 8 out. Okay, so those are the different pieces that are part of your answer. Alright, try some examples. Using this same rule on your packet, I want you to answer these 3 questions. So I'll give you a second. Go ahead and press pause up at the front of the room and write down the answer to these 3 problems. Alright, so let's check out what you just did. So hopefully you plugged these 3 numbers into your function, squared them, subtracted 1, and got 15, 99, and 0, remembering that negative 1 squared is positive 1. Okay, so if you got negative 2 on that last one, check that out. I want to ask you one other type of question. Okay, so sometimes I might give you the output and ask you what went in. So if you see a number out there at the bottom and there's a question mark up at the top of the machine, that's asking you what input would give you an output of 24. So take a second, think about it. What number would I have to plug in to get 24 out the bottom? And then write that number down. Okay, in order to get 24, I have to square the number 5. I have to subtract 1, and that's going to give me 24. So to get an output of 24, I have to have an input of 5. Alright, let's talk about one last thing. You're going to see some problems, alright, where I give you a table, and you have to come up with the function that describes that table. So you can already see that I started to look here. Alright, so if I plug 1 in and I get 1 out, and I plug 49 in and I get 7 out, I plug 25 in and I get 5 out. Well, this is just like the silent board games that we did way back at the beginning of the year, alright, where we looked at the tables and tried to figure out the equation that went with it. Same idea, alright? The equation that goes with this, or the function that goes with this table, is just f of x equals the square root of x. As I go from the top to the bottom, I'm taking the square root. So I'm just giving my function a name f. I plug x in, and I get the square root of x out. Okay, so name, input, output. Alright, what I want you to do is fill in the rest of that table, so take a second to do that for me. Alright, let's check out these values. Okay, so you're going to notice the bottom row, the first thing I did was I filled in the missing outputs. Alright, and so when I take the square root of 9, I get 3, 100 I get 10, 4 I get 2, 0 I get 0, and the square root of 20 is about 4.47. Okay, what I want you to notice is that I filled in then the 16 up here, which was the input that I needed to plug in to get an output of 4. Okay? What you're going to notice when you write these rules is that f of x is just another way to say y equals. So f of x equals is kind of just like y equals. Those are both different ways to express the output of an equation. Now, the cool thing about function notation and the reason that we use it is because as we're evaluating and writing our answers, you can see both the input and the output at the same time. So that's the answer to the last question on your paper. You can see the input and the output at the same time. Okay, you can have the rest of the hour to work through the other pages. So the middle 2 pages are going to be practice on this idea. And then the last page is going to give you a review of some of the older concepts. So that packet in front of you is going to get turned in before you go. I expect that you have plenty of time to get it done. So I'm going to grade it as if you had enough time to get that done. Alright, so get to work.